Hello, my name is not Giles Martin, son of George. My name is Dino V, son of Armando V. Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for unsubscribing. Thank you for watching or not watching. Welcome to this kind of mini review of Beatles Anthology 4. You may be aware a few months ago Apple announced that it was going to get anthologies 1 to 4 all in a box set, vinyl or CD, not standalone. Thankfully, loads of people moaned and complained, me being one of them. And is it a U-turn? But anyway, Apple have issued 4 on its own. So I wasn't even going to buy 4. So what did I do today? I went and bought Anthology 4. So I was very happy. Just going back through the mists of time, let's take you back. Can you take me back? Is it 30 years, 95? Do you remember hearing this on the radio? Beatles' new single. I remember on a Sunday doing a Beatles show in London at Southampton Row, at the Woburn Hotel, I believe. Doing a Beatles show, cold December night, driving back to where I lived in Milton Keynes back then, and the snow forced me off the motorway, and I was hoping this would be number 1, but it was kept off number 1 by Earth Song by Michael Jackson. The point being, that was 30 years ago, not today, but 30 years ago, which was a pre-single from Anthology 1. And we were all very excited. We're going to hear unreleased Beatles tracks. We're also going to get demos, different versions and outtakes. So during 1995, we got Anthology 1, which is great. You got Stuart Sutcliffe on it and Pete Best and some incredible stuff. And you have Mr. Brian Epstein speaking as well. I'm no good at impersonations. In 1996, we got Anthology 2 and Real Love. Real Love, sometimes I think it's better than Free as a Bird. I get confused with myself what I like. But we got Anthology 2. We, of course, have had the TV series as well, which was on was it December period in 1995. I can't wait till it's on that Disney Channel next week. And we got Anthology 3 in 1996 as well. No single was released. Apparently it worked on one called Now and Then. I don't know what ever happened to it. Oh yeah, it got to number 1 in the UK, didn't it, a couple of years ago. Me being sad, very sad. Look, I've even got my original receipt for Anthology 3. I didn't even know this today till I got it out. Just so you know, Anthology 4 cost, was it $24.99? I thought $24.99, and there's only, is it 13 tracks on here which you haven't already got. So if you've got the Beatles kind of deluxe anniversary editions of Pepper the White Album, etc., Revolver, I nearly said Rubber Soul, a lot of these tracks are on that. So there's 13 different ones on there. But my point being, this was $24.99. I thought, do I really want to pay that for 13 tracks? And I worked it out how much it costs each track, and it's like, shut up, Dino. And then I looked at my receipt for Anthology 3, and I thought I paid about £10 or £12 for this in 1996, and I actually paid £19.99. Therefore, this has only cost me, so that's 20. This has cost me £5 more than what I paid for Anthology 3 way back in 1996. I was surprised. I didn't know I paid that much. So Anthology 4. I'm not going to speak. I've only played 1 disc. I was very excited to get this, and I put a bit of it on in the car, and I thought, I've got to go home and listen to it properly with the music system and speakers. So I took it home so I could listen to it better. But I've only played disc 1 so far. I'm a bit of a... We've all got our funny ways, haven't I? I don't like to hear everything. Is an example. Game of Thrones, I've never watched the last episode. If you've ever watched Game of Thrones, was it season 8? It was dreadful. And I thought, I don't even know what happens at the end. I don't care. They could all die. I don't care. The White Walkers or whatever it is. So I've never watched the last episode of Game of Thrones. So I want to play disc 2, but I don't. But I will. I don't know if I'll resist playing all the tracks. Anyway, so it's only disc 1 that I've played so far. Since Anthology 1, 2 and 3 come out, sadly, we've lost George Harrison. We've lost Jeff Emerick. We've lost George Martin as well. What's that? George, Jeff. And, of course, the lovely Neil Aspinall. And Derek Taylor. Did I? a few people have passed away, but keeping, and on the sleeve notes on this, we've no longer got Mark Lewison do it, so Mark Lewison, but Kevin Howlett. You may have heard of Kevin Howlett, written some brilliant books on the Beatles, been involved in a lot of the box sets, and I remember Kevin Howlett way back from, is it the Beatles at the Beeb, which was put on BBC Radio back in early 1981, I believe it was. Might have been 81, was it 82? Whatever. So Kevin Howlett's got a long history connected with the Beatles. The cover of this, what it is, it's hard to do. Basically, it's these three covers put together on Anthology 4 by Mr. Klaus Voormann. Again, Giles Martin, son of George Martin, is at the helm for this, and I'm just reading the credits on here. So additional production and mixing is by Giles Martin. Additional engineering is by Joe Wyatt, and I'll have to put my glasses on. The writing is so minuscule and tiny. Greg McAllister. Additional research, Kevin Howlett and Mike Heatley. Mastered by Alex Wharton. Cover concept, of course, Super Klaus, bass player. Da da da. What's da 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 got to do with Klaus? I know, I'm so vain, aren't I? Design art direction by Richard Ward, the team, and sleeve notes by Kevin Howlett. So there's a bit of continuity still with the Beatles stuff. And what is lovely at the beginning of this is the opening notes. This is by the lovely Derek Taylor, and this was taken from interviews in 1996, so there's a part of Derek Taylor still there as well. Okay, I'm going to go on to the tracks now. What I do like about this, it's not a fat box like them. You know how much space they take up on a shelf? Oh yes, if of course you buy the CDs. So I'm going to talk about some of the tracks on here, not in great depth, but I'll be honest, it's worth every single penny. So if you're contemplating whether getting it, just get it. Just get it. So one of the tracks I hadn't heard before, I don't think. I Saw Her Standing There, take 2. So it's not like this I Saw Her Standing There on Free as a Boy, which is it take 9 on here? So it's slightly different. I Saw Her Standing There. Brilliant rocking version. Paul's voice is a bit more not Americanized, but it's almost not similar to the Decca tapes, but Paul's voice on I Saw Her Standing There on this version is quite different, I think, his vocals, compared to on the Please Please Me album or later takes. That's what I'm trying to say. Money. That doesn't begin with, is it George Martin piano? Absolutely incredible. Money, That's What I Want. RM7 undubbed, recorded on the 18th of July 1963. The power and thumping of Ringo's drums and John's voice just totally dominate this song. Absolute cracking performance. This Boy, that's on the CD single of Free as a Bird. I really want to talk about the ones that are already on CD singles or other stuff. Tell Me Why off A Hard Day's Night takes 4 and 5. Now, I'm not a big fan of this. I wouldn't put this in my top 50 or 60 Beatles songs. This is one of those I even forget about. This is really interesting. They're trying to work out the vocal harmonies as well. I think it's with George as well, and it's much more acoustic-y. Certainly not one of my favourite tracks, but when you hear, again, the nucleus and birth of some of these songs working, you appreciate the genius they all have got, all the Fab Four, plus George Martin, to get it to the final bit. I always liken this to a meal. When you go in a restaurant, say you have spaghetti carbonara and you've got all the ingredients and everything, you've got the final product. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into making that. Strip it away bit by bit, it's still interesting, but not as good as the final product. But Tell Me Why, I almost forget about that track from A Hard Day's Night. And what I will say is I'm glad they haven't just put on the Anthology for all the obvious tracks, all the hits, shall we say, all the well-known ones like Yesterday, Hey Jude. Great as they are, it's great to have stuff on here which weren't really singles. If I Fell, Take 1, absolutely gorgeous, raw, beautiful love song by John, eventually released on A Hard Day's Night. This is Take 11, released on 27th of February 1964. It really is gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Apparently John and Paul both standing there facing each other when this was recorded. Track 6, Matchbox Take 1. Never been a fan of that song, never liked the song much. But when this was recorded on the 1st of June 1964 by Ringo, and this is a great version, Ringo really sings his heart. He's a drummer, he's not a singer. He's flaming fantastic on this. And I think Matchbox is a forgotten track because you probably only ever hear it if you play either your EP collection or Past Masters Volume 1. It's one of those tracks. It was released, was it on the Long Tall Sally EP in '64? Just trying to think here. So that's a track you don't often hear, but it's a great version for Ringo. Track 7 takes 6 and 7 of Every Little Thing. Again, like Tell Me Why, not one of my favourite tracks on Beatles for Sale. And you may be aware that in the Get Back documentary, the Peter Jackson one, when they're talking about going on the roof or doing old songs, George Harrison says, let's do Every Little Thing. That was a great little track. This is beautiful. It really is beautiful. Not one of my favourites, but totally different from the released version. And here's one of my highlights. On the Help album, my favourite track on the Help album is I Need You by George Harrison. I just think it is so beautiful. The version on here is take 1, so you haven't got that bow, 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 bow. You haven't got that the fade in it. He plays with his pedal, doesn't he, of his guitar and everything. There's no background harmonies, vocals on it. It's absolutely gorgeous. One thing I'll say about this, I don't know what the Beatles are doing in the studio. I'm sure they had consumed cups of tea and taken other stuff as well, headache tablets or whatever, bottles of Coke or other things, but they're laughing a bit on this as it gets near towards the end. Now, I don't think they're trying to put George off, or they're just messing around, not paying any attention to him. I don't know. Part of me is, George sometimes used to say it was a hard work for him to get his songs put on an album, and I just felt when I was listening to this, even though it's so gorgeous, it's the best track on the Help album, and there's a lot of good tracks, that they weren't crediting George. And this is just so beautiful. I might be totally wrong on that. They might be laughing at, I know, Ringo might have fell over or Mal might have picked his nose or something. I don't know. But when they were laughing towards the end, I thought, I wonder if George was annoyed or he was part of it as well. Track 9, I've Just Seen a Face, take 3. John says about Lonnie Donegan on this. It sounds so skiffly but country and western. You can imagine the Quarrymen doing this with a washboard and everything back in 1957. And when they said about Lonnie Donegan, you can imagine Lonnie doing this. But I was thinking, did they offer it to Lonnie Donegan as well? Can you let me know? Put in the comments below, because I really don't know. I've Just Seen a Face. If the normal version goes, I've just seen a face, this one goes, I've just seen a face. I don't know what he was on, but McCartney's singing it so fast. I'm surprised all their instruments didn't break. I think John broke a string on it, didn't he? But it goes so fast. It's incredible. Track 10, In My Life, take 1. What can you say? If you live in the UK, there's an advert on TV at the moment. It's got some old women and they go to where some snow is, and they're gonna not skate. What is it? What's it when you sleigh down a hill? And they're thinking back to when they were young. They use In My Life, not the Beatles version, but another version. I love that song so much. I think we all love that song. And isn't it called John's most first serious masterpiece song? And you can see why. And this, all its tender beauty on take 1, it's just mind-boggling. When if I go back to 1995 and think of my personal life, most of my family and loved ones and dear ones are alive. Here we are, 2025. In my life, many people are no longer around. But way back then, I think virtually every single person in my family and friends was around, and we were so much younger then. So in my life, as you get older, that becomes more poignant and more personal. It's so beautiful. Nowhere Man, track 11. Virtually all instrumental, and it sounds like the Byrds. The Beatles are going in a totally new direction. Just incredible. My favourite version of Nowhere Man is on the Yellow Submarine Song Track, is it called, album? It's stunning. But this, without the vocals on, you hear every delicate instrument. There are a few instrumentals on this, and a lot of people might not like them. I think they're mind-boggling. You're hearing instruments you've never heard before. Skip those because they've already been included on box sets. She's Leaving Home, that is on a box set, isn't it? But the instrumentation on that is just incredible. You may be aware that George Martin was busy, so for the orchestration, for writing the musical score, sorry. So Paul got Mike Leander to do it, and now I think George Martin orchestrated it. I think that's right. When I was younger, so much younger than today, my mum had an album by a Mike Leander orchestra, and on it, years before I knew of the Beatles, there was Fall on the Hill, Hey Jude, and it might have been Here, There and Everywhere. So when I first heard Fall on the Hill, it was instrumental by Mike Leander. but he wrote the musical score for this She's Leaving Home, which is just stunning again. 16, Baby You're a Rich Man. My lord. I think they say that Jagger was in the studio and this is done. This hasn't got Brian Jones or any other instruments on besides the Beatles, and they do mention drugs and saying to Mal Evans, good old Mal, bless him, about going and getting some stuff. This is incredible, Baby Rich Man. There's many highlights. This is a big highlight on this. I love the chitter chatter, the banter of four guys having a laugh at each other, enjoying the studio, and they're calling out for or saying things to Mal Evans or whatever. And is it Norman? I said Norman Smith. Norman Greenbaum, is that the same person? I'm getting confused with Hurricane Smith. So they're speaking to Norman as well in the studio. Track 17, All You Need Is Love, rehearsal for the BBC broadcast. Bits of this I had years ago on a bootleg cassette. And there's a chap, I can't remember his name, it's not Steve Jones, is it? He's at Abbey Road Studios, and they're running through the rehearsal on 24th of June 1967. So I heard bits of it, but not all of this. They are on fine form. They're having a laugh, they're having a lark, and no doubt I think they might have had some substances. Again, it just brings it all back to life. Not that the Beatles ever died. All You Need Is Love is never one of my favourite songs, but you know, you can hear it and think, God, it's got to be one of your favourites. The problem is, I said, with the Beatles, they've written too many good songs. I always see All You Need Is Love as a kind of forgotten one, but it possibly was the first big anthem that the Beatles wrote, a universal song of love to go around the world. My opinion, might be wrong. 18, Fall on the Hill. What can you say? Instrumental, mind-boggling. McCartney really annoys me. How can one man, how can he write so many beautifully crafted songs? Listen to this. Listen to every single instrument. I mean, what's on here? Let's have a look what the instruments are on here. Of course, I'm not going to find what's on here now because I did see it a minute ago. So, you got a bass harmonica, 2 vocals by Paul, recorder, sound effect made by tape being rewound across the replay head. There was 3 flautists. I always call them flutists. You listen to this, and it almost doesn't sound like a Western song. It almost sounds spiritual, Middle East, Oriental. Absolutely mind-blowing. Will we get a Magical Mystery Tour deluxe box set? I'm not on here to talk about all that, but Fall on the Hill, Paul. It's such a beautiful song. Do you remember back in the days of 89, 90 when Paul performed it, and when he got his magic piano and it went up, it raised, didn't it? He had lights all going around, and he had the Martin Luther speech. I have a dream. Wow. Fall on the Hill instrumental here. Another great highlight. Maybe they'll release a Beatles album. It will be instrumentals. Beatles Karaoke Mental? I don't know. Just a thought. Track 19, the last track on side 1, on disc 1 of the CD, I Am the Walrus. Take 19, strings, brass, clarinet overdub. We've probably all heard various versions of I Am the Waitress. Sorry, wrong band. I Am the Walrus. With the band playing it without all the overdubs and all the instrumentation, the orchestral instrumentation by George Martin. This has got all that on. And again, you are going to hear things you've never heard before. Sure, the Beatles are great musicians, 4 musicians that play their basic stuff, sing the songs, do a bit of overdubs. But George Martin, what he incorporates into the music, just with the orchestration, whether it be a violin, a viola, clarinet, piccolo, trumpet, whatever it is, this is, again, mind-boggling. Okay, so that's disc 1. I can't talk about disc 2 because I haven't played it yet. And I want to play it now because I'm a bit greedy. Are you getting it? Have you got it? What do you think of the Beatles Anthology 4? I want to thank Apple for releasing it solo and not having to buy the whole box set because I would not have paid all that money. Anthology 4 is worth every single penny. Oh, and also I got this today. I don't know if you've seen these. I think they're quite rare. I don't know. You might have one as well. Look, a tote bag. Beatles Anthology tote bag. So that's just a replica of the CD. There it is. Nothing else in there. It's quite fab, so I'm nice to have that. So I'm probably going to play disc 2. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Put your comments in below and tell me your thoughts. What are your highlights? there's loads of stuff probably they could have put on. I'm really, really happy of those 13 tracks that I hadn't heard before. Just incredible. And some of those, what was it? I Am the Walrus. Then I don't think any of the Beatles are even on it. I think it's just the orchestration. Just a mate. Just incredible. When's Anthology 5 coming out? We're a greedy lot. We're a greedy lot. And here's just one thing I want to throw out, if any people from Apple or whatever watch. The Beatles Christmas albums that were released in a box set on the 7-inch singles, can we have them out, please, on CD? And Tony Barrow's involved in most of doing them. Surely there must be outtakes. There must be longer versions of everything recorded. Surely everything hasn't been erased and deleted. So the Christmas box set, I'd like that for next year on CD with longer versions and extended stuff of everything. Right, that's it. This is Dino V saying thank you for watching. I've got various Facebook groups. I've got Coming Up, The World of Paul McCartney and the Beatles. I've got Back 2025. Hello to everyone that's been to see Paul in America and Canada. You lucky, lucky people. Will he play in England this Christmas? I don't think so. In fact, I got told by a very reputable source that there's no plans yet. Please play. Anyway, it's about Anthology 4, not Paul McCartney. Go and get this. It's absolutely brilliant. I've only played disc 1. Got it on Disney next week to watch it all. We are so lucky to get all this stuff released. We can't get enough. If we had everything released, we'd still want more. Absolutely brilliant. Well done, Giles, Martin, and all the team, Apple and everyone. This is a fantastic collection. I recommend getting it. It's just stunning. Roll on disc 2. Ciao, adios. See you next time.